Fillet are seen as the healthy food. The consumption has doubled in the past 40 years. But who really knows what's inside the fillet o' fish?
Tonight, health experts are sounding the alarm about human-made chemicals known as forever chemicals, which are linked to cancer and other illnesses. More than 95% of all Americans tested have detectable levels in their blood.
Our so-called healthy diet, our fish diet, is quickly becoming a real danger. Farmed fish are more polluted and intoxicated than any other products.
The Baltic is one of the most polluted seas in the world,
and could become a serious threat to the human body.
Paragonymous calicoti is common within the Missouri rivers.
Placed these factory farms under strict surveillance. Gathering evidence, he claims that these men are pouring a powerful pesticide into these waters.
Businesses have increasingly turned to human trafficking networks for cheap labor. Workers are promised jobs in factories or farms and smuggled into Thailand from poorer neighboring countries, such as Myanmar and Cambodia. Many are then sold into slavery aboard fishing boats.
Part of our love for sushi is bluefin tuna.
The most loved by sushi fans, the most expensive at market, the diamond of the sea. But now, those who care about the fish are starting to worry that our ever-growing appetites may have put it at risk. A generation-long gold rush for this new prize of the seas may be leading to its own extinction.
The popular TV show Deadliest Catch is facing a crisis. Their crab traps that normally come in loaded with snow crab and king crab are coming up empty this year. The crabs have mysteriously vanished from the Bering Sea off the coast of Alaska, where the popular Discovery show is filmed. The population has plummeted from 8 billion in 2018 to just 1 billion today.
Save me from the man with the harpoon gun. Save me, I don't hurt anyone.
Hey guys, it's me, Comrade Lavender here, and now I'm back with another anti-capitalism true crime video. Today I want to do a deep dive into the overfishing / seafood industry files, a deep dive into this, capitalism, true crime, etc. In this YouTube video, I'll be talking about the fishing industry overall. That includes the seafood industry, foods such as oysters, clams, octopuses, fish, squid, mussels, lobster, crabs, crawfish, sea urchins, scallops, etc. All my YouTube videos related to this topic will be shown on the screen right now, as well as linked down below in the YouTube video description of this video if you'd like to check them out. So let's get started into the topic of this video. While the socially and health-conscious consumers imagine fish consumption as more eco-friendly and a healthy alternative to eating meat, the environmental damage caused by the fishing industry is inescapable since capitalism puts profits over all lives of everything. Overfishing in the seafood industry ravages marine biodiversity and marine ecosystems as a whole by inciting a domino effect of marine species collapse in the food chain. And commercial fishing pollutes oceans with discarded plastic gear, resulting in a plastic pollution crisis in the ocean, disturbing ocean floor segments and killing vulnerable creatures such as whales. Overfishing occurs when fish are harvested at a rate that is too fast for the natural regeneration of the population to occur. The current unsustainable speed of fish extraction creates a ripple effect throughout the ecosystems, including releasing CO2 into the atmosphere and destroying biodiverse coastal communities. Most of the ocean is unprotected. There's little accountability for ensuring ethical and sustainable standards are upheld when fishing boats are at sea. The fishing industry is a significant employer with nearly 60 million workers in the workforce industry. While you might assume such a flush industry would have strict regulation and control over their operations, most of the fisheries around the globe are overfished. Estimates suggest that $36 billion is generated annually in illegal fishing activity, with little intervention by governments who continue to subsidize the fishing industry organizations responsible. For example, bottom net trawling, in which giant nets the size of football fields are run along the seafloor, picking up or crushing whatever is in its path, is particularly damaging to fragile coral and sponge ecosystem marine habitats. When disturbed, By bottom trawling, as much as 90% of a coral reef colony perishes and up to 2/3 of sponges are damaged. Deep-sea coral forests, thought to be some of the most biodiverse ecosystems, can take 100 years and centuries to form. Coral forests, coined the karate of the ocean, act as fish nurseries for juvenile fish and other invertebrates, and are often found on seamounts. These places are vital not just for the communities of fish, but starfish, octopus, lobsters, crabs, sea urchins, brittle stars, mollusks and sponges, and worms, etc. that live there, but also thought to be vital stop-off points for migratory species like whales. It's thought that some species of whales even use the seamounts as a navigation to stop and feed during their long journeys. Longlining, a technique that consists of baiting thousands of hooks along miles of fishing lines, snag thousands of creatures that are typically thrown back in the water dead or dying. These unwanted species, called bycatch, often include endangered turtles, sharks, manta rays, and even dolphins, many of which are highly endangered. Every year, commercial fishing kills as many as 300,000 whales, dolphins, and porpoises, and about 100 million sharks. Fish targeted by overfishing, like the Baltic cod, eat a smaller fish called sprat, who then in turn eat an even smaller creature called zooplankton, and zooplankton who then feeds on the algae. As cod disappear from the environment, sprat proliferate and results in less zooplankton to play their part in culling algae. This leads to algae blooms, or the depletion of oxygen from the water, creating ocean dead zones. Not only is the overfishing bottom trawling bad for marine life, it's also contributing to massive climate change crisis in a big way. It turns out that dragging heavy nets across seabed disturbs marine sediments, which is the world's largest carbon sink. Fishing boats that drag heavy nets through the ocean to trawl the seafloor, often at great depths, release so much carbon dioxide as the entire aviation industry, according to a groundbreaking study done, Scientific 2021 study. Without careful analysis and with continued pressure from fishing companies for more governmental support, the industry swelled to a size that is too large to be sustained. With nearly 80% of the world's life making a home in the ocean, the continued subsidization of overfishing may eradicate marine biodiversity. Capitalism is not a sustainable system. The insatiable need for capitalism profits is genociding the earth and ocean itself. The majority of industrial fishing operations are located in the Mediterranean Sea. There are almost 100,000 fishing boats sourcing the ocean for fish annually, with at least 75% of fish populations overfished. This increases to 93% once crossing into EU territory. As a result, the Mediterranean Sea's population of fish has declined by a third. Bluefin tuna, one of the most desirable species of in the ocean, nearly went extinct due to the impacts of capitalism overfishing crisis. A similar pattern was detected in the Pacific Ocean stock of bluefin tuna as well. Most toxic food in the world, farmed salmon. Salmon is probably the most predominant example of how fish farming has led us astray. Nicholas Daniels' documentary called Filet-O-Fish provides a compelling look into the dark side of the fish industry and the farm fish industry. Food testing reveals farmed salmon is one of the most toxic foods in the world, having more in common with junk food than health food. A global assessment of farmed salmon published in 2004, which found 13 persistent organic pollutants in the flesh of the fish. On average, polychlorinated bivalve (PCB) concentrations in farmed salmon was 8 times higher than in wild-caught salmon, prompting the authors to conclude that the risk analysis indicates that the consumption of farmed Atlantic salmon may pose serious health risks that distract from the beneficial effects of fish consumption. The International Agency for Research on Cancer and the Environmental Protection Agency classify PCBs as carcinogen. Disturbingly, research suggested that contaminated fish is the most common source of PCB exposure, as these chemicals accumulate up the food chain and build up in the fat tissue of fish. A 2005 investigation by another group of scientists concluded even relatively infrequent consumption of farmed salmon may be harmful to your health thanks to elevated detoxin levels of the fish. Toxicology researcher Jerome Russin, who has tested for toxins in a number of different food groups sold in Norway, discovered farmed salmon contain 5 times more toxins than any other food tested. Toxic fish food blamed for farmed salmon toxicity. One of the main ingredients in farmed salmon feed and food is fatty fish such as eel, selected for their high protein and fat content. The problem is many toxins readily bind to the fat, and the fish feed industry is using fish deemed unfit for human consumption due to elevated toxicity levels, as you might expect. When fish used in the fish feed contain toxic levels of pollutants, they get incorporated into fish pellets. One significant source of fish for farmed salmon feed is the Baltic Sea, which is well known for its elevated pollution levels. 9 industrialized countries dump their toxic waste into this closed body of water, which has rendered many Baltic Sea fish inedible, unable to eat. According to the government recommendations, you should not eat fatty fish like herring more than once a week, and if you're pregnant, fish from the Baltic Sea should be avoided altogether. Some of the toxicity also stems from the manufacturing processes of the feed pellets. Also, disturbingly, testing reveals farmed fish can contain levels of ethoquin that are up to 20 times higher than the level allowed in fruits, vegetables, and meats. Wild salmon can contain unwanted pollutants. In a study of salmon found in the Puget Sound, researchers discovered 40 contaminants, including drugs, in the flesh of the fish. No one knows how exactly this chemical cocktail affects the fish, especially as they are exposed in combination. In all, the study found that 81 of 151 contaminants tested in the Puget Sound off the coast of Washington. The fish you may eat also comes with a side order of microplastics. In 2016, 13 metric tons of plastic was entering the waterways each year. Once consumed, microplastic particles tend to remain in the body and accumulate, becoming increasingly concentrated in the bodies of animals higher up in the food chain. Microplastics have even been found in the human placenta as well, and with land-based factory farms where animals are kept in crowded conditions, fish farms are plagued with diseases that spread rapidly among the stressed fish. In Vietnam, many panga farms are located next to the Mekong River, which is one of the most heavily polluted rivers in the world. Pesticides from surrounding rice cultivation fields flow into the river, and millions of Vietnamese households dump their waste directly into the river each day. Green algae and bacteria proliferate, and the waters have low oxygen levels, leading to dead zones. These fish produced in these farms are stressed, polluted, and prone to these diseases. Sea lice, pancreas disease, and infectious salmon anemia virus have spread across Norway, yet consumers have not been informed of the fish pandemics. The sale of diseased fish continues undebated. To starve off disease-causing pests, a number of dangerous pesticides are used, including one known to have neurotoxin effects. Workers who apply this pesticide must wear full protective clothing, yet these chemicals are dumped right into the open water, where it spreads with local currents. The pesticides used in this industry are shown to affect fish DNA, causing genetic mutilation effects. Estimates suggest that about half of all farmed cod, for example, are deformed due to genetic mutations. What's worse, female cod that escape from these farms are known to mate with wild cod, spreading the genetic mutations and deformities into the wild populations. The Army now admits it secretly dumped 64 million pounds of nerve and mustard gas agent in the sea, along with 400,000 chemical-filled bombs, landmines, and rockets, and more than 500 tons of radioactive waste tossed overboard. The chemical agents could pose a hazard for generations. The Army has examined a few of its 26 dump zones, but not in the last 30 years. The Army can't even exactly where all the weapons were dumped from World War II to 1970. Army records are sketchy. Sea dumping chemical weapons may be slowly leaking from decades of saltwater corrosion. resulting in time-delayed release of deadly toxic chemicals and radioactive chemicals, and an unforeseeable environmental impact on the oceans and the areas around it. Environmental impacts. The Army's secret ocean dumping program spanned at least 3 decades, from 1944 to 1970. They dumped weapons that were deemed to be unneeded surplus. They were hazardous to transport, so they decided, because it was too expensive to store and too hazardous to transport, too dangerous to bury, and difficult to destroy, they decided to dump it in the ocean. In the early 1970s, the United States of imperialism publicly admitted it dumped chemical weapons off the U.S. coast. Congress banned the practice in 1972. However, undersea bombs threaten marine life. Scientists are concerned about corroding unexploded bombs that litter the seafloor of the earth from U.S. imperialism and other forms of Western imperialism. High carcinogen levels found in wildlife in the ocean near bombs and waters where the bombs were dropped. Leaking toxins from these imperialist bombs are taking a toll on marine life. We know that these bombs are leaking cancer-causing materials and endangering sea life, said marine ecologist James Porter. James Porter stumbled upon another finding: cancer. He discovered that duster worms, sea urchins, and various types of coral found near bombs and bomb fragments contain high levels of carcinogen material. Many species of fish and other sea life, several of which end up on our plates, are displaying increasing levels of mercury and highly toxic substances. At the moment, according to recent research, approximately 82% of the exposure to this consumers in the United States come from eating seafood. If you rang in the new year with some shrimp cocktail in hand, you are not alone. Shrimp is the most popular seafood in the United States, with Americans eating about 5 pounds of shrimp each year per person. Farm shrimp are kept in pools on the coast, where the tide can refresh the water and carry waste out to sea. Ponds are prepared with heavy doses of chemicals such as urea, superphosphate, and diesel. Then the shrimp receive pesticides, antibiotics, some that are banned in the United States but used overseas, pesticide fish-killing chemicals like chlorine, sodium triphosphate, borax, and caustic soda. Shrimp farmers have destroyed an estimate 38% of the world's mangrove forests to create shrimp ponds. The damage is permanent. Not only do the mangroves not return long after the reduction has ended, but the surrounding areas become wastelands. According to a Yale University research study paper, shrimp farming has made certain areas of Bangladesh completely unlivable for people. The introduction of brackish water shrimp aquaculture has in turn caused massive depersonation and ecological crisis throughout the region. The other ugly, not-so-secret truth about shrimp farming is its close ties to slave capitalism labor, especially child slave labor. Shrimp farming, peeling, and other industry operations in turn around in Thailand have been consistently discovered using child labor of enslaved people, mainly immigrants from Cambodia, to produce shrimp that will eventually end up being sold in U.S. major retailers. Slave labor is also so deeply embedded within Thailand seafood's export industry that human rights advocates say the industry would probably collapse without it. The people formerly enslaved by these operations report witnessing and living under threat of graphic violence and working alongside children who are too small to even reach their workstations. Indigenous and Asian slaves were the lifeblood of Western Australia's early pearl industry. A pearl is a hard, glistening object produced within the soft tissues, specifically the mantle of a living shelled mollusk or another animal, such as the fossil keratoids. Pearls are stolen from living beings, oysters, who are exploited and murdered for profits. For hundreds of years, men and women have put their lives on the line for the pearl shell and pearls, just as they did for gold, diamonds, opals, and other treasures snatched from the earth. The first mother of pearl shell was commercially harvested in Shark Bay in the 1860s. The rich shell beds are close to the shore, were dragged with wire nets, and the shell was bundled into poggy pots where it was left to rot. That way, any pearls hidden within would tumble to the bottom of the pot and be collected. Numerous police and government reports record in graphic detail explain how Aboriginal people were forced to work as drivers, swimming without any equipment from pearl logger boats. Slave traders were known as blackbirders and would round up Aboriginal men at gunpoint and sell them to pearling captains. These skin divers face peril every day, coming against sharks, crocodiles, sea snakes, and storms, but with no medical help for over 800 kilometers or a week's sail away. Even a tooth abscess or an infected cut on a coral could prove deadly. Huge quantities of shell were hauled in, and Broome became Boomtown, producing 80% of the world's mother of pearl shell. Numerous investigations and research studies show how these workers endure low wages, inadequate living facilities and conditions, insufficient food and water, lack of safety equipment, and endless working hours treated like a wage slave. Men are forced to work as a part of debt bondage to pay off an obligation such as their recruitment. They receive very little pay or might only be compensated by receiving some of the fishes caught that day. Others are even enslaved victims of human and child trafficking who work against their will for pay or no pay at all. Such forced labor has been recently found aboard ships with no hope of escape while at sea. Some workers suffer physical, sexual, and mental abuse. North Pacific Seafood settled a lawsuit in July for unpaid wages and wage theft, false imprisonment, and failure to follow coronavirus testing and quarantine protocols. Valued at more than $440,000, the settlement covers 165 workers. Bumblebee forced to pay $6 million after a lawsuit of a worker was cooked alive. Bumblebee Foods will fork out $6 million for the horrific, vile death of an employee cooked alive in the 12,000 pounds of tuna fish. Bumblebee Foods and two managers were charged by Los Angeles prosecutors with violating safety regulations and the death of a worker who was cooked in an industrial oven with tons of tuna. Jose Melda was performing maintenance in an oven, and a co-worker who mistakenly believed he was in the bathroom filled the pressure cooker oven with the tuna and turned the oven on. When a supervisor noticed him missing, an announcement was made and his co-workers went looking for him in the parking lot. According to the report, his body was found 2 hours later after the pressure cooker, the oven, reached an internal temperature of 270 degrees, cooking him alive. It was turned off and opened, and they retrieved his body. So the population of snow crabs has been crashing for a while now. After hitting record highs recently in 2018, numbers have fallen so low the Alaska Department of Fish and Game for the first time ever canceled the snow crab fishing season this year. The NOAA Abundance Survey found the total snow crab population in the eastern Bering Sea dropped from an estimated 11.7 billion in 2018 down to 1.9 billion in 2022. These surveys are a critical piece, but not the only piece, that NOAA uses to determine long-term population trends. That's a drop of well over 80% of the snow crab population. I think this is mainly due to overfishing and not letting the population have a chance to grow, but I also feel like climate change plays a big factor, as in the snow crab population decline as well. The thing about capitalism, the system, is that it takes and takes and takes until it can't loot, and it loots and loots until it can't take anymore. You know, the whole point of capitalism is to make profits, aka profits over lives. I know that I keep saying this, but it's just the truth at play here. The crabs are most likely overfished, and because the crab population couldn't be replaced fast enough with so much overfishing and factors such as climate change playing into all this, it generally takes 7 to 9 years for the male snow crabs to reach the legal minimum size required for harvesting. This is topped off with capitalism caused climate change, which is most likely to blame. While counting snow crabs in 2021, fisheries biologist Aaron saw that something was deeply amiss with the snow crab population. ERIN, a National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration NOAA scientist, spends 3 or 4 months with a team that collects crabs from 376 stations in Alaska's Bering Sea each year. Some of these areas always teem with crabs. Scientists count thousands of crabs, but in 2021, thousands dwindled to only hundreds. The survey last year was a huge red flag for me, she told Mashable, the news source. So there are 2 theories of what could be going on when it comes to the snow crab situation. Again, it's most likely overfishing, as usual, due to capitalism, but also, climate change caused by capitalism exacerbates that. The Bering Sea, where crabs have historically flourished, they are all of a sudden basically endangered now. It's a high possibility that the fishing industry, a pro-capitalism industry that values profits over lives of everything, is to blame for this. On top of the theory, these crabs prefer cold waters over warming climate change, water extremes. In other words, it could be a consequence of climate change, which can make environmental impacts, in the ocean where the crabs live significantly more extreme. Warmer waters allow more diseases like bitter crab syndrome to thrive. Diseases could have been spread through the snow crab population. Who knows? Whenever you have warming water temperature, that provides basically a petri dish for diseases to come into the system. More pathogens can survive. In March of 2019, for example, the Bering Sea ice was almost completely disappeared at the time when the water should have been blackened in thick ice. Sea temperatures were above average, and the ice extent was the lowest on satellite record. Climate change caused by capitalism could be the main cause, but it also could be overfishing. It has the same outcome, though. Capitalism puts profits over lives, that of crabs, other animals, humans, and Mother Earth herself, etc. And it's not just snow crabs that are affected. Lobsters are also affected. There are some 3 million lobster pots in Maine's waters, creating entanglement hazards for whales and other marine biodiversity life. The lobstermen do not want to kill these whales, obviously, of course, but with that much gear in the water, whales are being killed nevertheless. The bloody truth behind Japan's dolphin hunting. Taiji Harbor on Japan's southern Pacific coast. Within an hour, the boats were lined up in formation encircling a pod of 18 dolphins and forcing them into a cove. Some will be forced into aquariums and kidnapped. To others, the fate of the unchosen dolphins was even more cruel. Hunters stuck them with sharp metal spike into their necks, just behind their blowholes, making them suffocate in their own blood, turning the ocean water around them blood red. Their dead bodies are dragged into Tafini fishing port, soon to become meat products. The small town of Tapiti, Japan, made global headlines after a 2010 Academy Award-winning documentary film, The Cove, highlighted Japan's little-known dolphin hunting industry. While the film was highly acclaimed worldwide, the dolphin hunts are conducted across Japan, often using spearfishing. This town is particularly notorious because hunters here usually catch entire pods, leaving no chance for families to recover and causing a devastating impact on dolphin populations. The decline of global whale populations, the blue whale populations, have declined dramatically due to unregulated illegal commercial whaling, putting them at risk of extinction, and others, such as the killing of Japan's endangered whales. Conservationists declared the killing of 25 endangered whales unsustainable and indefensible. In addition to eating plastics, large whales are harmed when they become entangled in fishing gear or other ropes in the ocean. The drag from debris can force whales to use more energy to swim, making it harder for them to eat, causing starvation. Not only this, but when they ingest them, like these fishing ropes and stuff, in their intestines, they become blocked and they die and suffer. There have been so many recorded cases of this happening all over the world. What is shark finning and shark fin soup, and why is it a problem in the seafood industry? First off, this gluttonous broth is a traditional Chinese dish dating back more than 1,000 years. Once a rare delicacy, it played an important role as an indicator of social standing. These fibers take on a consistency similar to noodles, but they have virtually no taste or nutritional value, so chicken stock or something similar is added to improve the flavor. In the past 20 years or so, the demand for shark fin soup has skyrocketed. It is still associated with privilege and social rank. A bowl of soup can cost upwards of $100 US, but the explosive growth in the Chinese economy means that hundreds of millions of people cannot afford this luxury. Many consider it a delicacy at important events such as weddings, birthdays, business banquets, and during the Chinese New Year celebrations. Shark fin soup is also popular in traditional Chinese medicine. Although research suggests that it contains so much mercury and other toxins, it's barely fit for human consumption. It is estimated that as many as 73 million sharks are killed annually for shark fin soup every year, an indiscriminate slaughter that is pushing many shark species to the brink of extinction, and many sharks are endangered of going extinct as a whole. More of Gordon Ramsay's hypocritical moments. Gordon Ramsay, the hypocrite, how the TV chef passionately defended sharks, but previously caught 2 rare ones for fun and games. He called it cruel, sick, tragic, twisted, barbaric, wasteful, out of control. Strong words, but few people would disagree with Gordon Ramsay's description of the indiscriminate slaughter of the world's shark population. The subject of the celebrity chef's documentary Shark Bait on Channel 4, such as his outrage at the horrors he witnessed along the way, that the notoriously foul-mouthed chef let slip no fewer than 20 uses of the F-word. And for once, it seemed that his expletives were justified, for what we learned that more than 70 million sharks die each year in horrific circumstances, surgically separated from their fins, with the machete while still alive before being tossed back into the ocean where they drown. Without fins, sharks cannot swim, and if they stop moving their gills, they cannot extract oxygen from the water, and they will suffocate. The fins, on the other hand, are turned into shark fin soup. The popularity of the dish in China and Southeast Asia, as well as London's Chinatown, means that some species of shark are now facing extinction. No bowl of soup is worth that, and most of the millions of viewers who saw the program would have reached the same conclusion. The program ended with Ramsay desperately pleading, "Leave the sharks alone and respect their beauty." As the credits rolled, the following sentence appeared on our screen: Gordon Ramsay is now a patron of the Sharks Trust. But 2 weeks on, disturbing evidence has emerged, which at best suggests that Gordon Ramsay was a very unsuitable person to front a campaign highlighting the plight of these much marginalized but misunderstood predators. The evidence is contained in a series of photography graphs and a video clip taken on a fishing expedition off the coast of Florida. On a boat is Gordon Ramsay, and he is busy reeling in a 7-foot tall bull shark. Yes, the man who spoke so passionately on TV about the need to save sharks is indulging in a little recreation sport fishing. Before the shark could be brought on board, the shark had to be killed. So the captain hooks the shark on the end of Ramsay's line with a harpoon and rope before dragging it backwards to the water. When a shark is dragged backwards for long enough, it suffocates because it can only pump water out of its gills when moving forward. So how long did this particular shark take to die? Around 10 agonizing minutes, according to witnesses. When it finally stopped moving around, the bloody carcass was hauled onto board with cheers from Ramsay's entourage. A triumphant Ramsay can be seen high-fiving the captain. Ramsay could simply have asked for the shark to be released while still alive, catch and release as it's known, but he had other plans. He wanted to turn it into a trophy and put it on his wall. The fee, $2,000. A few days after the first catch, Ramsay was back on the fishing boat again. On this occasion, he landed a 9-foot hammerhead shark, which was subjected to the same slow, lingering death. Of course, there is no mention of this in his Channel 4 documentary. And now Sharkgate, the senseless slaughter of 2 animals which Ramsay has since urged the world to help conserve. So how did Ramsay find himself killing sharks for sport? A practice, some would argue, that is every bit as wasteful and barbaric as shark fin fishing. Seafood isn't actually really that healthy as in eating it in the current state of the capitalism polluting going on and other factors. Seafood is known to have heavy metals like mercury in them as well. Scientific studies have shown, the bigger the fish, the more mercury has accumulated inside its body. Fish and shellfish, Some examples, such as clams and oysters, may contain chemicals or illness-causing microorganisms like bacteria and viruses that could pose health risks to people. Eating raw or undercooked oysters or clams can lead to serious illness or death in people with the following health conditions: liver disease, excess alcohol intake, diabetes, HIV infection, chronic bowel and stomach diseases, cancer including leukemia, Hodgkin's disease, etc., steroid dependency, etc. Not only this, but in certain things like shellfish such as crawfish, lung fluke, a flatworm that invades lungs after humans eat raw or undercooked crab or crayfish, and has been seen on the show Monsters Inside Me on Animal Planet multiple times, showcasing the health risks and effects of eating seafood.
Empty-handed, at home with no food, even though I just left Gordon Ramsay's fish and chips. Health reasons, safety reasons, both of those are true. First, let's speak about the customer service. It was terrible. I called beforehand because they are on a strip. I didn't want to make that walk without my food being done, so I tried to call. No answer. I walked in and immediately noticed the kitchen didn't look that clean. It was a bowl, like a metal bowl, full with 20 to 25 pieces of cooked fish that looked freezing cold. It was around open packages. It was around raw fish. It was around other customers' orders that haven't been completed yet. It made me uncomfortable. I have a shellfish allergy, so my red flags went off immediately. I didn't want to get sick. Immediately. I'm a very observant person, so I took that into note and I went to order my food. I got 3 pieces of fish, some dirty fries that had like bacon and cilantro sauce on them, and a Biscoff shake. It sounded delicious. After I was done ordering, right before I got my total, I asked the lady, can you please make a note to the kitchen that I'm allergic to shellfish? All I wanted her to do was go tell the kitchen, hey, don't touch his fish with that lobster. After you get done touching that shrimp, go wash your hands because he allergic to it. That's all I expected. She said, no, I can't do that. Everything in here is contaminated. Those were her exact words. She said the bowls, they use the exact same bowls for the fish, chicken, lobster, shrimp. They use the exact same oil for the fish, chicken, lobster, shrimp. I'm not no expert, but that sounds gross. I said, okay, so there's no way that you can make an exception and not use the same bowl that you would lobster on my fish? She said, no, everything is contaminated in a very stoic and cold manner. I said, okay, what about chicken? She said, no, we're going to toss the chicken in the same bowl that we tossed the lobster and the shrimp in. I gladly and kindly turned around and walked my ass out of that building. If you want to go, be safe, be careful. I don't want nobody getting sick.
Caviar is an expensive seafood dish made of fish eggs, usually from sturgeon. There are 3 main types of egg extraction in sturgeon, while only one involves killing the animal. They are all equally bizarre and objectively inhumane. Much like performing a C-section on a human, a small cut is made in the female sturgeon, then her eggs are surgically removed from her body. Afterwards, she is sewn up and tossed back in farming pools to recover, produce more eggs, and the cycle can continue again. C-sections put the fish at risk for infections, which may be fatal. It can also damage their ovaries. Sturgeon is listed on the International Union of Conservation of Nature's Red List. Species on the Red List are most threatened animals in the world. In the past century, sturgeon populations have declined by around 70% in major basins. Illegal poaching is a significant factor and contributor to this decline in sturgeon. It's also worth mentioning that breeding sturgeon in farms does not contribute to rebuilding biodiversity populations in nature. It only exploits them and continues to normalize using fish as liver caviar dispensers. Caviar is high in cholesterol, salt, and calories, so it's not even healthy, and it's really not worth it at all. The controversy and backlash of octopus farming and mukbangers eating octopuses alive and squids. A South Korean YouTuber called SSO Young has sparked outrage with her ASMR mukbang videos. The YouTuber, who has approximately over 3.4 million subscribers, has come under fire for her graphic videos where she eats squids and octopuses alive, even as viewers can see them writhing on her cutting board or even around her mouth. Other people have been seen boiling the octopuses alive, and other mukbangers have been actually attacked by the octopus's tentacles itself. To date, the majority of octopuses for food are wild captured. In 2020, the global catch totaled over 377 tons. While these creatures are not yet farmed especially for food, a number of companies are looking to change that. In the Canary Islands, the multinational seafood company Nevera Pescama plans to construct a facility to raise and slaughter as many as 1 million of these creatures each year for human consumption. But in light of a growing body of evidence suggesting these marine invertebrates are highly intelligent animals, more people are asking, can octopus farming either be humane or ethical? Octopuses are consumed around the world. They are especially popular in European nations and Asian nations, including Spain and Italy and Japan, and Korea, but are also imported by the United States. As demand is projected to grow throughout North America, China is the world's largest producer. A number of factors have increased interest in octopus farming, raising demand for meat, their quick growth, and short lifespans. However, there are several reasons why experts believe these complex creatures would not thrive and industrial operations need to produce them at scale. First, as the American Veterinary Medical Association points out, the captive breeding of octopuses has been proven to be extremely difficult. These animals are known escape artists, and in the wild, a mother octopus would stop eating as she carefully tends to her thousands of eggs for as long as 1 year, a process that eventually leads to her death. In captivity, females have been found to self-mutilate themselves, apparently attempting to accelerate this final phase of life. To date, the majority of octopuses used for food are wild captured. Once again, wasting away. Sea urchins suffer deformities from microplastic chemicals. Chemicals found in both new plastics and those washed up on a UK beach has caused deformities in sea urchin larvae, according to a new scientific study in the Journal of Environmental Pollution. It is difficult to study the impacts of chemical pollution on sea urchins in the wild. Severely deformed larvae won't survive for long, so researchers may see general sea urchin declines rather than the telltale deformities caused by the pollution. Sea urchins are very sensitive to changes in the food supply and water temperature. Both are impacted by the climate change crisis caused by capitalism.